Everybody, this is Paul Hitchcock. Welcome to Giant TV. This is my channel where I have really interesting people doing great things on it. And certainly Ginger Duncan is one of those people. Hello, Ginger.
Hello, how you doing, Paul?
Great. Thanks for being here. And yeah, you and I were talking offline. You just have a lot going on. Very interesting background as I have you up here on LinkedIn. But let's just jump into this. What a little bit of background on what you've done in your history, your work history, and then how you got into executive and leadership coaching, because you have a very successful practice.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's talk about where it started. So it started
Yeah.
with my mom and
Ah,
her business partner. So
really?
when I was in my 20s, which was a long time ago, Paul, my mother had this type of business, and her partner had a business out of Chicago, and they did executive leadership coaching, leadership development. And they brought me on as a sidekick and mentored me. I traveled with them for a few years. I
Wow.
did little pieces of leadership development. I was coached by mostly my mom's partner, Vivette Payne, and traveled with her, and she taught me everything she knew.
That's amazing.
Then I had children, and I was gone on one trip with them, and we were gone like 2 weeks because that's the kind of work we did, and it was just too much. And we got back,
Yep.
and I'm like, this is a lot to be gone. And so I took a pause from that for a few years, but I ended up back in the space. I went to work internally in an organization to learn how it works to work in an
Yeah.
organization. My mother said I needed to do that. She said, you need to learn what really happens, not just the theoretical, this is what's in books, right?
Yeah.
This is what they say best practice is. It's what really works.
Yep. Yep.
And I did
Not
that
always the same. Not always the same between what the book says and what actually works, right?
absolutely. And how
Yeah.
does that translate? So this
Right.
is what the book says. What does it mean in real life? And so I did that, and it was wonderful, 11 years. And then that's where I was certified in executive coaching to that organization and all that.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
then decided, knew eventually I'd go back out into consulting. And right before COVID, I did that. And so during COVID, I hired a marketing firm. They did my website, did all that cool stuff for me. And so now all I do is executive leadership coaching and
Yep.
development. So I
Yep.
work with leaders at that top level or high potentials that are moving into that role. It's wonderful. It's so rewarding. I help people be better.
Yeah, yeah, no, and so as I was looking at this, are you focused on a particular niche or all over?
All over, all
Yeah,
over. People say to me, it's so funny because they'll say, well, this is healthcare, or this is, logistics, or this is, and I said, people are people.
yeah, yeah,
People are people.
yeah,
And executive coaching is helping you be better in dealing with people and connecting with people and being a better form of yourself, right? And moving the business positively as well. So people are people, and I work with people in all different types of businesses. I do a lot of work in private equity,
oh yeah,
which actually is fairly new to leadership development and leadership training and things like that. And so I do a lot of work there, but I also work in healthcare, industrial supplies,
yep.
um, talent work, hospitality. So all different areas.
What are the problems? I mean, why are people bringing you in? Is there a common thread with all those areas, or like, what is it?
It's so interesting. It is people wanting to be better. So when I work with executives, leaders, even high potentials, 30-year-old high potential,
Yeah,
they're smart. They're smart people. They've done great things. They've set high goals for themselves. They're high achievers. The thing is, though, with high achievers, they want to be a little bit better. How can I be
oh
just a
yeah,
little bit better? And my job is to be that person for them. First, to be that safe place to talk with and say, here's what I'm struggling with, or man, I messed this up yesterday, to have
yeah,
that safe place, but also to push them a little bit. And I use what's called the 5% rule, Paul. I say, if you're going to do things just 5% more or less in this area, what would it look like?
hmm,
Doesn't need to be huge. Typically, the greatest change, the most sustainable change happens in small increments. And so I say 5%.
yeah,
Let's just tack that on. What does it look like? And then my job is to hold them accountable to that. Did you do it? What did you do?
yeah,
What results did you get? Did you like it? Did you not? Do we need to change something?
yeah,
And keep that moving forward. So to measure that progress, which is what I do, so we can actually show a return on time invested or money invested. So it's just a
yeah.
little better.
Yeah, and I love the 5% thing because it's digestible. And I've always experienced, and I've heard others like you talk that I mean, if your goals are too high and they're just these gargantuan goals and you don't achieve them, then you get like depressed and you feel like a failure. Where if you got a little 5% thing, do it, you feel great.
Exactly. Exactly. And a
Yeah.
lot of times we set these huge goals. I tell leaders this when they're doing performance evaluation conversations. I'm like, don't set these huge goals for people because it can be very demotivating. Also, if they don't see a little change or a little movement in a positive way, they'll give up. And so if you want
Yeah.
sustainable change, it's kind of like weight loss, right? You
Yeah.
try to lose 50 pounds in 1 month. You're not going to, you get
Not gonna
mad,
happen.
you
Yeah, yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's that small thing that you can reach? And then you layer that on. Now let's add 5% more. Now let's add
Uh-huh.
5% more.
Uh-huh.
In coaching, what will happen a lot of times is people will overcorrect initially.
Yeah.
So I'll give them feedback. I get feedback for them, and I share this feedback from people they work with. And I say, here's what people see as your strengths, here's what people see as opportunities. And they overcorrect and they go way over here, and it's weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Weird. It's
Yeah.
not them. Are you old enough to have seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Oh yeah, love it. Donald Sutherland. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I watched it 3 weeks ago. One of my favorites.
So it's weird. And I'll say, don't be weird. Quit being
Yeah,
weird about it. Small, 5%, add a little bit on, see if you get the results you want. Then let's layer a little bit more on.
that's great. That's
It's
great.
perfect. It works.
How are you dealing with with these type A personalities and you said these high achievers, their personalities can be, I don't even know what you call it, prickly, like holier than thou. I mean, how do you deal with them? Are they just all in? Are they calling, bullshit on you all the time? Like, how do you do it?
We call bullshit on each other sometimes, right? And that's okay. You know, I'm here as a resource. They're going to share with me what they want, what their pain points are. I'm going to share with them feedback because I get that feedback with every client I work with. This is what people are
Yep.
saying. This is how people talk about you when you're not in the room. This is how people would describe you in 3 words, Paul. I tell them that.
That's great.
So it's your choice. Do you want to move
Yeah.
the needle on this or if you don't, let's shake hands and let's be friends and move on. I don't want to waste
Yeah.
your time. You don't want to waste mine. But if you
Yeah.
do want to make improvements, let's talk about it. And yeah, sometimes there's some defensive and pushback, and that's okay. That's normal. I'm okay
Normal.
with that.
Normal.
Got
Yeah.
thick
Yeah.
skin. It's not about me. Here's
Yeah.
what I heard people say. Here's what I'm suggesting or what you say you're willing to do. Let's do it. If you don't want to
Yeah.
do it, it's okay. You're an
Yeah.
adult.
Yeah. What does that look like at an engagement for you when you start out with somebody? I mean, you get on a discovery call and checking it out. Okay, you guys have a good vibe going on, but then
Yep.
what happens from there?
Yep. So we do that initial, are we compatible? Do you want to do the work? What do you think about me? If you don't like me, maybe I can recommend somebody else because that's
Yep.
important. And then I do interviews, stakeholder interviews. And so they give me a list of people that they want me to talk with. It's usually if they're leaders, people on their team,
Yeah.
their reports, depends on how many they've got, some of their peers. And I get on a Zoom call like this, 15, 20 minutes. I'm quick.
Yep.
And I say, tell me how you describe Paul in 3 words. What does he value? What does he like? What does he
Wow.
not like? What ruffles his feathers?
Oh
What
man.
are his strengths? What are opportunities for him?
Hmm.
I interview a lot of people. I gather this baseline. I won't do it if I can't do that.
Yep.
And then I'll give you a report, Paul, and say, this is what people say, not who said what, but this is the overall. There's a lot, people say a lot of nice things about people. I will tell you that. It's not that scary.
Okay.
And normally the stuff that people say opportunities, most people who have a little bit of self-awareness are like, yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah.
And so then we take that and we say, okay, based on that, what are your overall goals? What are those big buckets? So is it communication? Is it conflict resolution? Is it goal achievement, whatever?
Yeah.
And then we take the 5% rule and we say, based on these big goals, what are the 5% action steps you're willing to do in every area? 5%.
Hmm.
I'm going to respond to emails within 24 hours. I'm going to say thank you. Wow, that's a biggie. I'm going to actually track my progress on these goals, and I'm going to make sure I've got a 5% ad every quarter, whatever that is. And then my job is to hold them accountable to those and
Uh-huh.
what results they're getting and help them see the benefit of the 5% action steps. And the 5% action step, what you hope is that develops the habit. So you got to have the muscle memory of doing it enough to
Oh,
develop the habit, right?
yep. Yeah. No,
And
I love that because I had somebody else say one time that those sort of things you're talking about, it's just got to be part of your identity every week. Habit, identity, like you said, weight loss, exercise, these things, habit, identity,
discipline. It's got to be
discipline.
that
Yeah.
is who I am now, right? Because
Right.
without that identity, it's not going to stick.
Yeah. Are you an accountability person? Your accountability, right? I mean, you push them if they need to, or hey, what do you do if someone didn't follow through on something? Because you're not going to hammer them. What do you do there?
Well, I tell them this. I'll say sometimes work gets in the way and life gets in the way. And so you may have an action step on your coaching plan. They receive a coaching plan after every one of our calls. So I document short and sweet, not a novel. They don't want to read one, but just
Just
here's
what, in a Google Doc, a Word doc, and you send it to
it's
them,
just a
or is
Word
it
doc and it's their coaching plan and it's what we talked about high level and
okay?
these are your action steps. If there's an
Okay.
action step and I highlight it so it draws their attention to it, when they get that, if they don't execute on that within the next month, I may say, hey, what's up, Paul? And they may say, oh my gosh, my month got away from me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. If that continues to happen, I'm going to say, Paul, what's up?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on here?
Yeah.
And I'll connect it to the goal. I'll say, remember we talked about your uncomfortableness with difficult conversations? Does that have anything to do with the fact that you haven't had this conversation with Mary yet? So that's the accountability piece. Then at 6 months, Paul, I reach out to those same people I interviewed initially and I say, here's what you told me about Paul, because I know what they said. Exactly. What have you noticed? And that's why I'm looking for measurable gain. That's the only way I know how to measure the process.
That's great.
So that's that whole measurable piece. And then I go back to the person I'm working with and I say, here's what people said. You've made gains here. So we can
Yeah.
measure it. And they're like, yay, people notice I'm doing this. Or and this is still an area, or there haven't been any gains. I've never had that happen. But there's some small gains. They get momentum. And then we say, okay, we want to keep working together and get that momentum, keep going. Or do you want to maybe take a break and we'll meet every other month? So we renegotiate at that point. Are we good? Let's keep the momentum. Typically people want to because they like the accountability. And
Yeah.
they like the fact that that's an hour a month blocked for this because
I
people
was going to ask you.
they don't do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the process. An hour a month Zoom, and you're going
Virtually.
through. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people meet in person. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So some people that are here, we meet. Some clients I'll meet maybe once a year if they're somewhere else. But typically we can do it virtually as long as cameras are on. We can see each other and connect. It works.
And what do you do between the monthly sessions, Ginger? Is there any interaction between you and them between the monthlies?
Not unless they need it. So one of the things that I offer all my clients is what's called just-in-time coaching. And what that means is, let's say something happens and we're not supposed to meet for 2 weeks, but you had something go bad or you're preparing for something or you're worried about something. All they've got to do is reach out to me and say, hey, Ginger, do you have any time? Now, I could be traveling with clients or I could have a really full schedule. As soon as I see that note, though, they will hear from me. And it may be, hey, Paul, I got 15 minutes at lunch. Can you hop on a quick call? Or can I call you when I'm driving back from the airport?
Well, because they're
call. I don't charge extra for that. It's like this is part of the process.
Just do it. Yeah, because they're dealing with something and they just want your quick input on an issue or something.
Yeah, or they just want to bounce an idea like, what how does this sound? I say, you know what, that sounds great, do it. Or sometimes I say, oh my gosh, you got me on this. Let me call you back. Let me think about it.
Oh yeah. I've been there many times. It's okay to say, I don't know.
No, that's right. But it's a true partnership because that's what they need in the moment. They don't need to wait 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. But you've got to, of course, you make it known to your clients that you are available that way and they don't got to wait and all that stuff. Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, I wonder if she gives an agenda to her husband and has a monthly meeting with him.
He
Sweetie,
he
you
probably
failed.
thinks I do. He probably thinks I do. No, he's actually really good at this stuff too, which is great.
Oh, that's hilarious. You guys must be an interesting power couple there, with your agendas. All right, what are we doing for date night? Let's get our agendas together. Oh, that's
We're big
awesome.
live music people, so we're always at a concert somewhere. I can tell you that's what we do.
Oh, and you're in an incredible area for the music, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I could go on forever with this. This is fantastic. And I want to say, if somebody wants to get on with you, and I'm going to tell everybody wherever you're watching this, because we stream this everywhere, YouTube, LinkedIn, it goes up on X, Facebook, other places. Ginger's information will be around the video. But Ginger, do you have an initial kind of exploratory session you get on Zoom? Yeah.
That I get, what do you mean?
Like what for if somebody wants to, hey, you seem interesting, they want to get to know you, what your process is all about, and get on a Zoom with them?
I have people all the time that'll reach out, gingerduncan.com, and they'll say, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this. We get on a call, we talk about, I share my process, kind of what I'd like to get out of this program if we're going to work together. What do they want? Does it seem like we're a good match? Answer any questions they have. Sometimes they say, yeah, let's move ahead. Sometimes they don't, and that's okay. We just talked through it because this is like, there has to be that connection felt for it to really work. They're going to have to really be open with me or it won't work.
Yep.
And so they need to feel that. And if they don't, they say, okay, I can refer them to others I know. I just want them to have a good experience.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
no, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you for doing this. This is fantastic. I'm interested to track where you're going with the business. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. It was great getting to see you and talk to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, everybody.